Welcome back to another 5 video on my channel. I'm Jacob from Jacob's Book Corner, and today we are talking about 5-star predictions. I released a video at the very beginning of this year. It's that one right there, where I was like, I'm gonna pick 5 books and we're gonna read them. It'll be a 5-star like prediction type of thing. Well, when I did that video, I actually did not realize how short one, or maybe I did, but I guess I didn't really realize page count-wise how short one of the books I chose in that 5 books. So in this installment, episode 2, we're actually gonna be reading 2 of those books that are already out. Some of the books are not out yet. I think we have 2 more after this, and they both don't come out for until later months. Those books today, in this video that we're going to talk about, is we're going to talk about The Last Word by Taylor Adams and The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Clare. This is a book that I originally thought was a full-length novel, and it ended up being just another novella from her. I actually have a clip of me realizing this in a video where I did 23 books that I must read, so I'll play the clip here. I thought this was like a full-length Cassandra. I want more. Cause I like this like visual reaction to it because I was just so sad. I was very much under the impression that this mermaid cannibalism novel would be much longer than what it is. And then I also was under the impression that it was like 140 pages, and that's a book that you can really dive into and talk about in a feature, like a full video. It's actually 106 pages. It's super duper short, like one of the shortest books I've read so far this year. So I've declared I'm just decided to mesh them together. So I'll update you when I either am 25% into one or finished one, because I think I'm just going to come in and do a review for The Salt Grows Heavy, and then the last word will be more like a vlogging style video where I come in and I sit down and do 25% updates and stuff. So I'll see you guys whenever I start one. I want to come in here and give you guys my review, the first review. So if you don't care about The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Clare, just go ahead and shift over to The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I just haven't read it yet, so once I do, we'll go in and we'll actually do check-ins for that one. That one's like 10 hours long, and so we can actually like come in and talk about it while I read it. This one, I'm going to try to be vague because it's only like 100, like I said, 106 pages long. That being said, I have some thoughts and opinions. This book, just like most Cassandra Clares that you pick up, if you are familiar with this author, the reason why I picked this one as a 5-star prediction is because I really thought Nothing But Black and Teeth would transfer over to this story. Sadly, it was not as lyrical as it was towards the end and parts in the middle, but it wasn't as lyrical, and I didn't feel like the violence was as beautiful, which was kind of the point. And I feel like in reflection, this book could possibly be a 5-star. But right now, I think I'm settling between a 3.75 and a 4.5. Yeah, it's a big gap, but like, I just don't really know where I feel yet because I just finished it like 10 minutes ago. But let's go ahead and dive into it. So that's the reason why I read Nothing But Black and Teeth like 2 years ago, and I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted in anything. And then I've never been able to read a Cassandra Clare that I've enjoyed. They've ranged from 1 stars to 4 stars. I've never hit a 5 again. And I was like, that's perfect for a 5-star prediction. Yeah, let's pick books and authors I'd never given 5 stars again. We're gonna do the same thing with Taylor Adams, don't you worry, it's the same type of conversation. But with that being said, let's talk about The Salt That Grows Heavy. This is a mermaid cannibalistic story where we follow a mermaid who is taken from her habitat home and put into a society where they like to medically take apart human beings. It's kind of like the way it goes. And it really is a story about a few things. Some of them I'm interpreting just based on some lines here, but let's go over some of the messages, the forewarnings. warnings. One, because I think if you go in knowing the messages, I think you'll probably enjoy the book better. I'd like to mention this is extremely graphic. I think this is the most graphic I've ever read from Cassandra Clare. I've not read one of her other ones that's very similar to this one as well, that's for pretty sure. The difference here is that like if you read Nothing But Black and Teeth, it's blood and guts and gore throughout the book, throughout the little novella, but it's very lyrically written, and so like the whole time I read that I was like, oh my god, this is so disturbing, but it's so beautiful, I can't stop reading. This one I read it in like one sitting because it was so short. It was like almost the exact opposite. It was so medically driven that it was so desensitizing by like the second person that they mentioned getting like torn apart limb by limb, that like I didn't care because I heard cartilage and callus and bone marrow and like all those are like really graphic terms used in such a graphic way, but also feel very medically tight because of the fact that they are performing medical procedures. The best way I know how to describe this is that one movie with Kristen Stewart that came out last year that everybody's like, what is that performance, where she talks really highly. You know what I'm talking about. It's a Cronenberg movie. It's very similar. There's even a scene done to an autopsy of a younger child, just like that movie has controversially in it as well. And so It was very interesting. I don't think there's supposed to be similarities, but there could have been. I don't know why the author chose to write this particular story. I would say it really is a conversation because we are dealing with a mermaid who cannot speak. She has no voice. And so we're seeing all this brutality through her eyes and done to her. And so I do think it's about assault and what we do to people when they are assaulted in some way, shape, or form. How society in general just shuts them up. They tell them it's not worth talking about. You don't need to, to fight this. It's something that happened, and things like that. It's a very broad way to put that, but I think that's a big conversation here. It's also assault on women. That's a big thing because we're dealing with mermaids particularly here, and mermaids are a very loose term. I just know it's a mermaid story because it says it in the descriptions. I don't mind telling you that out loud, even though they don't really talk about the fact that she's a mermaid. I think by the end you really get a good picture of what it could be about the fact of under the lines disabilities in a way, I guess. It's very interesting when you live in a world where they can take out your heart and you can continue to live on, even though like her society alone is no longer with her. Very complex, very complicated. I think I'm gonna land on a 4. It's very confusing in my brain because of such, but I think objectively we're gonna land on a 4. So it's not a 5-star, so my 5-star prediction was wrong. But this is a 2-book video, so let's see what the last word is. I'm gonna very quickly intro that just because I can before we jump into a 25% check in for that whenever I get to it. I chose the last word because of a single book called No Exit by Taylor Adams. Right? This book right here. It's one of my favorite action-packed suspense stories I've ever read in my life, and I've never been able to find anything compared to it. I have searched the web for it, but have not found anything compared. I've also read books that are like, you love this is practically the same thing, and even if it's practically the same thing, it's still not as good. And so I read other Taylor Adams as well. I'm going to be doing a video discussing a lot of his books and doing reviews inside that video, where I kind of wrap him up after I finish the last word. I have one more after this to read. It's like a ghost hunting one. We'll see where that goes. But the last word follows a writer who's being stalked by like a fan, I think. I'm not sure. I'm interested. I've heard some interesting things about it as well. So we will see. I've been trying really hard not to like look at any reviews and stuff. For instance, I just learned that the writing retreat has like it's very chaotic, which I did not know until like 2 weeks ago. I'm curious to see if it's going to be a 5-star. I don't know. I know that Gabby just released her mid-year freakout tag. It was in the thumbnail, and that could either be like best book or worst book. Or most disappointing book or something of those lines. There could be like a lot of reasons why that could be in the thumbnail. And so like I'm just really intrigued to read it. So I'll get to it relatively soon. I'll talk to you guys when I finish it. Alright, I'm gonna come here and update you guys. First update for the last word. There'll probably be 2 more once I finish the book. This is a halfway check-in just because I was doing stuff and it's very engrossing. I do have a feeling this could be a 5-star. This took a very interesting turn. So it's about a reviewer. They review a scathing 1-star review to a horror novel, and then they believe they're being hunted by the author. That's really all you need to know. There's like a pretty big jump, I should say, that they do. It's really good, and I also highly recommend the audiobook. It's phenomenal. There's a few things going on in it. I don't want to spoil anything, and it's just beautifully working one against another, and it's phenomenal. If you like close, very like small locations, small body count type of thing, but high gore, this is definitely a book for you. It's very suspenseful. It's also kind of written almost in like a documentary style in certain aspects of it, which I think really works for genre. I'm loving it. If the twist is one of like the 2 that it could be, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a 5-star. So this will definitely be determined on if there is a twist. I say this as if there is a twist because in every other Taylor Adams I've read, there's like a little twist at the end, but normally doesn't have like huge repercussions. It's normally like a character or something smaller in the story. He's normally filled with more twists and turns throughout, but it's really interesting because in almost every one of my books, every one of the books I've read of his, the killer's always present from the beginning, and you have a pretty good idea of who that could be. So it's not really a guessing game, but it kind of is in a way. So again, it just all depends on the ending, but I'll be you guys. I did finish The Last Word by Taylor Adams. That one ended up being a 4.25, just close to perfect, but it just did not fit the mark. And I wish I came in here with like a better reason. I just don't. It was also one of those books that really just escaped me the next day. Like, I read it in probably about a single sitting throughout my work day. I read it continuously. We were making things, and I was like, you know, putting labels and doing all the fun stuff. I was continuing to work on it throughout, and I just came to the point of where I finished the book, and I was really surprised by the ending. I remember that. I remember the ending. I remember that I was really happy with the ending. It's a fun novel. It would make a great movie. That was like one of my big takeaways. It would make a great movie. It's very simple. The plot is very simple. The twists are very simple. I did say that it wouldn't get a perfect 5 if I guessed the twist like I did in the first 10%, and I was right. It couldn't get a 5 based on my standard, I guess, and it didn't get one anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That being said, I'm gonna go ahead and outro this whole entire video out right now, because I don't want to talk spoilers for either of these books. We're just gonna talk about journalistic. So the first thing being, I read The Salt Grows Heavy or something by Cassandra Khaw, and I landed on I generally don't remember, on a 4 as well. That was a mermaid tale, which is a novella, and it had like one single update. This one always said. And then I read The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which ended up at a 4.25. I recommend both these books if they have any interest to you, or if you're interested, I guess if it has any interest, and if you're curious about the story in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, highly recommend these books. I think they're both really well written, really enjoyable, both extremely graphic. The violence is very brutal in every sense of the word for the one. I also somewhat enjoy, but also don't think Taylor Adams did a good enough job with some of the things that he was trying to explore and kind of rebuttal with his main character. So it was really interesting to read it from both points of views, for a writer infatuated with women, and then a woman who is opposed to horror writers infatuated with women, which was a very big concept in that novel. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, let me know, guys, if you read these, if you guys have any thoughts and opinions, if you have any spoilers about either of these books, please leave them in comments saying spoiler Pacific or whatever on it, and I'll talk to you guys on next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.